Coming up in today's video,
Lewis continues to have this plane flying around engaging on all fronts, who through some kind of miracle managed to stay in the fight and hold on to that objective. How's that for cunning?
Hello and welcome to the Scholar Progenium. Today we've got an interesting battle report for you. Me and Lewis, we're just playing from the big rulebook. We're playing the 4 pillars, so table, quarters, and we've got 2 fun lists for you today, but lists undoubtedly with teeth. So Lewis is bringing his aptly named Custorkies list. The reason for this, Big Mech, Steam and his long-suffering assistant Numbnuts, having had their heads bashed in with their old clan by them big shiny boys, the Custodies, decided instead of to get grumpy, they decided to just simply, if you can't beat them, join them, and so got themselves a new clan and got themselves a lot of cans. So as you can see, this is a bit of a mental list here, a bit different to usual green tide, but everything's toughness 5. He's got a lot of things hitting on 3-ups. He's got a lot of 5-up invuns. I think me and Lewis are going to roll off for who gets for deployment, and then we'll be with you. I'll go through the list properly after the roll off. So Lewis, have you got a dice?
I can.
Oh, over here. A lot of models out already. I'm on a 3, and you're on a 5. No, that's fine. 5. So, pick your quarter, man, I guess. We'll be back after deployment, guys. First of all, we have the Flesh Tearers list. Now, Flesh Tearers are very similar to Blood Angels. They're still +1 to wound in melee. They still have Savage Echo, so that's +1 attack when they're in the Assault Doctrine, so from turn 3 onwards usually, unless you're spending stratagems, that kind of thing, and or using a Priest. But they exchange +1 to advance and charge for 6s to wound in melee are an additional AP -1. So they're all about tearing through armor with those chainswords. And I found that to be extremely effective, more so than I would have thought when I've just been having fun with the Flesh Tearers. And I've actually developed a list which is quite nasty, as I think you'll find. So looking at it in a bit more detail, first of all, we have the HQs. Now, I have to apologise. I've just been so busy with work. I hope you can please let me off. I've got a sanguinary priest with jetpack that I've undercoated. I've got his base half done, but I just haven't put the detail on him. Now, he is running the Teeth of Terror, which costs me an additional CP, and he is just a normal sanguinary priest with a jetpack apart from that. Now, I've got a captain. He is running the Crimson Plate because I just love that relic. I've got to take him in the Flesh Tearers. He's probably not even the best choice, but he is very effective. He can advance and charge, and then I also use the Warlord trait that allows him to get additional strength and attacks and reroll charges, I believe, in as his Warlord trait. I think it's called the Emperor's Sword or something like that. I've also got Librarian Dreadnought, and the Librarian Dreadnought has, for his powers, just the standard 2 you would always take, the Quickening and Wings. I was considering taking the one that gives a 5-up invuln, but I don't really need it with the Flesh Tearers. Now, moving on to our sort of detachments, we have a platoon and a vanguard. So for my platoon, I've taken 5 intercessors, just with standard bolt rifles. Nothing fancy about this, just do a job, easy enough. And I've kept my Primaris to an absolute minimum in this list. And I probably could have put Tactical Marines here, but I just fancied using my intercessors. Now, they've got that little bit more range, and they're usually going to be on the back line as well. Now, I'm using 8 Death Company, or 2 squads of 8 Death Company if we move on to the elites. Both have 7 chainswords and 1 thunderhammer. Now, moving on, we have 9 sanguinary guard. We've got 3 axes and 6 and carmine swords. We've then got a little bit of an additional choice here. We've got a unit of company veterans. They've got 4 melters, they've got a power sword, and they've got 5 storm shields. And they're going to rock around in a rhino, claiming objectives and being hard to shift. We've also got accompanying them a 5-man unit of Vanguard veterans. Now, second apology here, I've got all the storm shields ready to go. I just haven't been able to paint them and glue them on, exchange them for the pistols, so to speak. So my Vanguard veterans are running sword and pistol right now, but they are in fact sword and board, and I cannot wait when you guys see these Vanguard veterans with the sword and board. Yeah, I know lightning claws are cool, and I've got so many Vanguard veterans, and believe me, I'm going to convert loads to be lightning claws and storm shield as well, even though the points are going up a little bit. But these guys are they're going to look so good with the sword and shield, and they're actually really, really effective. They do plenty. Sometimes they're not within charge range, but that's when I just take the opportunity to deploy a scrambler or something like that. So there's plenty of tactics you can do with them, and they're just very cheap as far as Vanguard veterans go, and they save me a lot of points and afford me some melters. So these guys, 5 of them are going to sit in a Rhino, and then I've got 2 more units of 5, so 15 Vanguard veterans, sword and board in total. Simple but very effective, and really, really fun, and I can't wait for you to see them when they're all converted up. Now, rounding out the list, very simply, we've got 3 Eradicators with melters, because why not? And I like the idea that the Flesh Tear's like, fine, okay, you can come along, but stay at the back and try not to get in the way. And the Flesh Tear's company veterans have even taken melters to kind of show the Eradicators how it's done when it comes to turning tanks into slag. So I'm really happy with this list. It's evolved a little bit off camera. I haven't really played with it on camera, but I've been having real fun with the Flesh Tearer. So I'm really excited to show you guys this list. And some of the units are obviously going to cross over into Blood Angels, and a lot of the tactics do as well. But just a few different units, no Mephisto and stuff like that. Now we'll move on to the Orks. Now, Lewis's Orc army is an absolute sight to behold. I really should have taken the opportunity to take more photos for you guys. It's just absolutely beautiful. Every model customized, and believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Lewis's Orcs. If you've been a long time subscriber, or I had an old channel back in the day years ago, and he featured a lot on that, you'll have seen these Orcs before, and he's just expanded them massively. Every model's basically customized in some way. Lewis is a mech boy, he truly is, and he also is a tattoo artist and an artist. So I'll link his Instagram in, because he's got loads of 40k stuff on there, and just loads of cool imagery on his Instagram. Definitely worth checking out. Now, moving into the list itself, we've got his Orc. We've got his HQ. So we've got not a big boss with the the power armor. Sorry, I'm forgetting what it is. It's like Terminator armor for Orcs, and he's got a custom blaster and a big fist, and he just crushes. We've then got 2 mech boys, and they are both with the custom force fields that allow them to give a 5-up invuln against shooting to models within 9 inches. Quite an outdated rule, that, and I'm sure it'll be updated when the Orc Codex drops. Then we have, moving on, we've got some heavies. Lewis is I think he's a platoon and a heavy detachment, as the same as me, and he's got 3 Death Dreads. Now the Death Dreads have just the simple claws, not the mega close combat claws, but they're still AP -2 and strength +4 and 2 damage each, so they're still very effective. And he's also got 2 custom mega blasters on each of these Death Dreads, so they really do spam out some fire, long range. They can rip stuff up very easily. They're a really nice rounded unit, and on top of that, he spends CP before the game starts to put these guys into a teleportarium. I'm sure that's not what the Orcs call it, a teleportarium or whatever, but that thing means that these guys can come in wherever they want, basically. Really effective. Then he has 12 killer cans. Now, yes, killer cans, they're not that effective, but they are very, very fun, and they do actually work in the list very well, because they've got a lot of presence on the board. Toughness 5 is a little low. They could ideally be toughness 6. 4 wounds, again, a little low, but they do the job, and they're fun, and that's the point of this list. It's effective but fun, and it looks amazing, and each one of his killer cans just looks absolutely incredible. Really wish I'd taken more photos of these guys, as I say. Now, some more heavy firepower. He's got a battery of 5 Mega Blaster Zapper guns. I lose track of the Orc terminology, but long story short, these guys, they have D3 shots each. They roll instead of wounding normally, they roll 2 dice. They have to get over your toughness, and then it's D6 wounds. Absolutely nasty. On top of that, he's got some, and I can never remember the name of these guys, but commandos. So the commandos, the 6 in a squad, they've got a burner in there, and the knob has mega claws. So, you know, effective at coming in, really good for picking up points, and he actually has quite a lot of units that can just come in there with the Death Dreads and these commandos. It's less of a stealthy outflank from the commandos, but you'd expect nothing less from these Orks. And so what they do is they teleport and they can get line breaker, they can get all kinds of stuff like that. They've got loads of options for scoring, whilst the Death Dreads just cause absolute chaos. So this is a list that really speaks to me. I really enjoy playing this list. It's absolutely great fun and it looks incredible. So I'm so happy to be able to show it to you guys today in this battle report. So let's get straight into the battle now. So here we have the field of battle after deployment. We've got the Flesh Terror set up in one corner and the Kustorkis set up in another. There's one objective in the centre of each table quarter. Now if I take you through and we've got a big piece of line of sight blocking terrain in the middle. We've got a few ruins around, and then this looks like a nice little bit of like a compound or something like that. Now if we go through the Blood Angels in a bit more detail, we've got the interceptors on the back, just within 3 inches of that objective. We have the Eradicators just looking at the flank of Sam's lines over there. We have 2 squads of 5 of the Sword and Board Vanguard veterans, with the captain with lightning claws at the front and the crimson plate. We have 9 Sanguinary Guard behind them. We have 8 Death Company behind them, just pushed right up as close as I can, 9 inches from the centre of the board. These Death Company can actually be seen. They're within the line of sight blocking cover. And then I've got my Rhino, and that is for the Emperor, with a squad of Vanguard veterans and the company veterans, and they're ready to push onto this objective. We go through the Kustorkis in more detail. Simple enough deployment. He has 3 squads of killer cans heading up the list. And which ones are the ones with the shiny bits?
The middle squads.
The middle squad, so they're hitting on 3s.
Hitting on 3s.
Nice. We've got 2 Dakar jets on the sides. They'll be able to grab lots of engage on all fronts and that kind of thing. Really good for scoring. And then he's got his cannons just facing down both flanks of the battlefield, ready to shoot around that line of sight blocking terrain. So my army's kind of covered, kind of not. We will roll off now and see who gets the first turn. Okay, I had a Blood Angels dice ready. Here it is. All right, Lewis, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go. And it's a 5 versus a 5. Oh ho! 2 and a 1. Oh, I thought I'd lost it then. Okay, so we'll be with you after Blood Angels turn 1. Sorry, not Blood Angels. We're Flesh Terrors today for the Emperor. So Blood Angels' first turn was an interesting one. I started off by spending 2 CP to move the Death Company that were here forwards. And then obviously in my movement phase I moved them again, so about 6 inch charge from this Dakar jet. My other unit moved to just over 6 inches away, and the Sanguinary Guard moved to just over 8 inches away. I'd set off the Chalice on twice, spending extra CP. Oh, I am down to 4 CP, that was what I spent the extra CP on. To make 2 units in the Assault Doctrine. Sweet. Now what I've and that was a unit of Death Company and a unit of Sanguinary Guard. Then I moved with the rest. I moved and assaulted, advanced with the Vanguard veterans that have shields and chainswords, and the choppy captain with the priest just behind, and the chaplain with them as well. In the psychic phase, I got off a D3 extra attacks and charge with the librarian dreadnought, and I got 3 extra. Then I failed wings, spent CP to reroll, failed it again on another 1 and a 2. So I just couldn't get my librarian forward. So he's a bit exposed to Dakar jets and so on and so forth. My Eradicators moved forward 5 inches and shot off into these guys. I only managed to get 3 wounds through, and Lewis got 3 5-up invulns. They took absolutely no damage for the Eradicators on the first unit of killer cans. Then I
threw some I threw some grenades and fired some bolt pistols at this unit of killicans here, and I actually managed to kill off one, which was great. Then I shot in and did damage to another with the Sanguinary Guard. Then it was time to charge. Now I was 8 inches -2 because I got off my +2 to charge from the chaplain with his chant, with his litany. So I had a 6-inch rerollable charge on the Sanguinary Guard, and I had a 6 inches down to, well, just over 6 down to 4, just over 4 inches on these Death Company into these killicans. Now the Sanguinary Guard struck first, and they just wrecked that unit of killicans. I didn't want those fists. Is it strength 10, flat 3 damage? AP minus, strength 8, flat 3 damage. No, it's double, is it? Or is it plus?
+3.
+3, nice. So strength 8, it's wounding on 2s. So I decided to give the Death Company, I obviously knew Lewis was going to interrupt. He did. He killed off 4 Death Company with his fists. The Death Company struck back and took down all of the killicans apart from one guy who remains on 1 wound, this little Gretchen, determinedly piloting against the Death Company. The Sandguard consolidated up 3 inches and just nudged into him in case he didn't pull out. I mean, I'm sure he will. And these Death Company remain in combat. Over here, these Death Company, Lewis got really lucky on his saves. I got struck absolutely really well. But this thing remains on 1 wound. I only did 11 wounds in total to the Dakajet. So all in all, 1 unit of killicans wiped out, 1 unit of killicans taken down to 1 wound, and 1 Dakajet taken down to 1 wound, but not finished off. I wanted to stop him being able to easily score engage on all fronts, and that hasn't worked out. So it's been an interesting start to the Flesh Tearers, but a good one nonetheless. Nothing in Deep Strike. I just started everything on the board because it was table quarters. I thought I'll smash it up the board if I go first, and I've got obviously line of sight blocking terrain in the middle if I don't. The only final thing to mention is that the unit of Vanguard veterans, 5-man with storm shields and chainswords, the sword and boards Vanguard veterans, and a unit of 5 company veterans with 4 melters and their sergeant with a storm shield and power sword. They, for the Emperor, moved up 12 inches and took hold of this objective here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I mentioned, but these intercessors just stayed within 3 inches of that objective, just a smidge within, and deployed a scrambler, the first scrambler of 3. So we've got that off. So we've scored, I think, 7 points for Bring Them Down. So that's pretty good for scoring. And in terms of engaging all fronts, we're in 1 table quarter, 2 table quarter, 3 table quarter, 4 table quarter. So that is another 2 points. So a good start for the Blood Angels, and we've taken control of 2 objectives as well. So we'll be with you after the Orks, or should I say Custorki's first turn. The Ork Dakajet screamed into this table quarter. It couldn't shoot because it withdrew from combat, and the other Dakajet screamed into this corner here. That allowed Lewis to get 4 table quarters in total. This Dakajet over here shot into the Primaris Intercessors down there, and only managed to kill 2. He did really look on his shooting, but I did really look at my saves, which was unfortunate for Lewis. Then he moved his 4 remaining dreads over here, fired into the Sanguinary Guard, managed to kill off a couple of them. Then he unleashed a storm of energy from his 5 big guns. He managed to blast away the 3 Eradicators that were behind that piece of terrain, and also kill off a couple more of the Sanguinary Guard. That was pretty much it for shooting. He had also moved on to this objective here, disembarking a squad of boys from his transport, and he's raised a banner, and he also used a big mech to raise a banner here. He then charged into the Sandguard with his other big mech in his mega armor and the 4 killicans. There to come, the Death Dreads. And his big boss charged into the Death Company. He struck with the big boss first, and he only managed to kill 1 Death Company. I got like 3 6s on my saves. It was crazy. Then I struck next. I managed to kill off 3 of the cans and bring 1 down to, I think, just 1 wound remaining. He then struck me and he managed to kill off a couple more of these guys. So there's just 3 with axes remaining, but they're all on full wounds. Lewis then struck again with the big boss, spending 3 CP, and he managed to kill off the Death Company. Second time they didn't get so lucky, and he just consolidated into here in case I decided to shoot anything. Not that I've got much shooting because he's killed my Eradicators. So all in all, a good retaliation. 1 unit of Death Company wiped out. The Sand Guard, 6 models slain, reduced from 9 down to 3, and outnumbered in close combat. But I have got this cheeky squad of 8 Death Company hidden kind of behind Lewis's lines, and I've also got my Flesh Tearers on foot running up, including all my characters to support. So I'm starting on 2 objectives. I'm starting on 10 primaries, so I'll be with you after Blood Angels turn 2. The second wave of Flesh Tearers moved up through the building and prepared themselves for the charge under the guidance of the chaplain, who got off his litany at +2 inches to charge once again. The priest again just gave extra attacks to one of these units this time. Oh, I spent CP to give it to both Vanguard units. So those chainswords and storm shields were ready to rock and roll. I still had another unit of Death Company who was under here, and they swung round behind the guns. In terms of shooting, there was very little. The intercessors over here managed to kill off a couple of boys. Everything else was just, non-consequential, so to speak. The combat went off, and I got this unit of 5 into a killer can, this unit of 5 into the war boss, the priest into the war boss. The chaplain was just behind. He just moved up to support, give moral support, so to speak. There was one other shooting thing over here I forgot to mention. So I hopped 5 the company company veterans out of their transport. They shot 4 melters at the plane and just failed to do anything. I thought it was guaranteed. He's only on 1 wound. It's all I needed. But Lewis continues to have this plane flying around, engaging on all fronts. Such a good pilot. And then I also had the 5 Vanguard veterans that weren't involved in the main push hop out of the Rhino also and deploy a scrambler. So I've got 2 scramblers off, 1 to go. In terms of combat, sorry, just to switch back and forth. Lewis he only had 1 CP, so not enough to interrupt. So I hacked apart his war boss. I hacked apart the remaining killer can. And then I did 2 wounds to this mech boy. It looks absolutely great, by the way. Did 2 wounds to him. 2 through, so 4 damage to him. So he remained on 1 wound. Then my captain managed to kill off 7 boys, leaving the knob remaining, who through some kind of miracle managed to stay in the fight and hold on to that objective. So I've not managed to steal that objective off the captain. The captain, because of his crimson plate, he advanced and charged and moved like 10 inches, and he was like a 1 inch charge away and just got and diced up the boys. So yes, all in all, then one of my Sand Guard, because of the death masks and the mech was hitting on 5s, so only 1 was killed in return by the mech. So the Flesh Tearers are smashing up the board. They're ripping apart the cans. It's an absolute spectacle to behold. They're cooking on way more gas than I expected them to. We've got this 1 killer can fleeing in terror. Oh, that was it. I managed to try and charge my chaplain into this killer can, but couldn't get him. And I've got 1 power off in 2 psychic phases. This guy failed his wings and his extra attacks. That's not there anymore. So Librarian Dreadnought doing literally nothing for me this game. But all in all, it's going extremely well for the Flesh Tearers. But the Orks are still scoring. All their engagement on all fronts. All their they've got two objectives. So they're going to score 10 primaries. So the scoring's absolutely fine, and they've got 2 banners up as well. So they're going to be scoring well at the start of their turn. So we're with you after Orks turn 2. Orc turn 2 was one of cunning brutality and brutal cunning. The 3 Death Dreads marched in from my back lines. Was that because of a stratagem you'd done at the beginning? Deep struck in, teleported in, looking at the back of my Librarian Dreadnought. His cunning, what are these guys called? Commandos. Deep struck in, just behind the objective my intercessors were holding, and then his Dakka Jet swooped round in a formation. He shot 1 Dakka Jet into my Melter veterans, but and managed to kill 1, and then he shot everything over here into the intercessors, and I was just getting lucky on my saves, and Lewis is getting unlucky, but eventually wiped me off that objective. So I'm only holding 1 objective at the start of my turn, which is a little bit of a disaster. Now we've got, with the Flesh Tearers, plenty alive round here, because he charged in his remaining Death Dread into the back of my Death Company, killed 2 off, then the hammer swung back and blew him up. And then over here he withdrew, so he was just holding this objective but couldn't get attacked by me. Moved his transport up to help hold against the captain, and then the Death Dreads opened fire. 2 of them shot at the captain, managed to take him down to 1 wound. They did 4 wounds to him. He's got Terminator armor, so I have an extra wound actually. And then these guys over here, one of them shot at, I think there was 1 guy remaining here to finish him off. So the Death Dreads, they were very successful in their shooting, but they had to use, one of them who would have liked to have targeted and finished off the captain, had to take me off that objective. But a good decision nonetheless. So the Death Dreads have rocked on my back lines, and Lewis has now got more than 2 units. In fact, he's got 3 in my deployment zone. So he's also scoring 4 points for line breaker at the end of his turn. Did you have to shoot with both commando units? Yes, you did. And then you'll move on to my objective and raise banners, I'm sure. So it's looking sketchy for the Flesh Tearers in terms of board control. They seem quite spread out, but we'll see what we can do to reposition. Lewis's original position is just 2 cans and a mech boy now, really. So 2 guns and a mech boy, really. So we'll redeploy after some fish tacos, because I've actually got some fish tacos in the pan right now. So it was a very exciting turn for the Blood Angels, turn 3. Of course, Savage Echoes kicked off, always very nice. So the Librarian Dreadnought turned around and swaggered into within 2 inches away from these guys. The Chaplain leapt across the table. He was about a 7-inch charge away. And the Captain also diverted from this objective towards the Death Dreads. The Sanguinary Guard leapt from over here towards this objective, where the truck was. These Vanguard veterans with shield and sword just moved towards the Death Dreads, towards the centre where they've got options for where they can go to, and deployed a scrambler, my final scrambler within Lewis's deployment zone. So that's 10 points for that secondary locked in, which is nice. The 4 Vanguard veterans that were in combat last turn against the Death Dreads swung around against the final 2 artillery pieces of the Orks, and the Death Company moved in with the priest against the mech boy, or the big mech. Is that what it's called? Yeah. The then other movement, my 5 Vanguard veterans who had deployed a scrambler down here hopped in the Rhino, which advanced a total of 17 inches back to reclaim this objective. So I've got 5 Vanguard veterans in there with storm shields and chainswords holding an objective. And then these company veterans with their 3 melters and the sergeant with the power sword stayed on this objective and aiming at the Dakka Jet. They popped up at him in the shooting phase. Oh, again, my Librarian Dreadnought messed up his psychic. He failed to get off the quickening, but he did get a smite, but for 1 wound against the Death Dreads. Then these guys popped their melters up and they got a total of 7 damage against Lewis. My Sanguinary Guard shot at the Orc Knob that was holding this objective and killed him off. I threw grenades from my priest, my chaplain. Managed to do a couple of wounds here, and I fired my storm bolter and managed to do another wound, so that was great. And then I did grenades and pistols over here, but nothing. And then I charged in. I got 5 out of 6 wounds on one of the guns. I just couldn't get through these guns. Absolutely murdered the mech boy, no problem there. The 2 Sangard killed the truck, but he exploded and did 2 mortal wounds in return, taking the Sangard down to just 1 man in the unit. And then over here, I kind of flubbed my attacks. I think I only did a total of 3 wounds to this guy and 5 wounds to this Death Dread. And in return, this Death Dread killed the captain with lightning claws, my warlord, and this guy took 2 wounds through, 4 wounds in total. So my Librarian Dread. So the fight against the Death Dreads is a heavy one, and we've already lost the captain. Although, you know, he's not really designed for taking heavy armour. We have, however, sort of, as I said at the end of Lewis's turn, spread out and taken the objective. So I've got this objective here locked down, I've got this objective here locked down, I've got this objective here locked down with the veterans, and then this Rhino for the Emperor has taken the 4th objective. So yes, we've got all 4 table quarters for engaging all fronts, we've got all 4 objectives. So Lewis took me down, so I only started this turn with 5 points for primaries, but Lewis is going to start with none. So how's that for cunning? Right, so we'll be with you after the Orks turn 3. It's an absolute nail biter of a turn. So the Orks reposition their Dakka jets once again, keeping this Dakka jet just within this quarter so that he's staying in engaging all fronts. This Dakka jet swept along both either side of the line of sight blocking terrain, ready to do a strafing run on this sanguinary guard. The Death Dreads remained in combat, thinking they'll get some shooting done, try and blast their way out, and otherwise fight their way out. And then all these guys moved up next to the Rhino that was on that objective. Then Lewis unleashed on the Rhino with this Death Dread, who had stepped away from the combat. He wasn't engaged initially, and he managed to do 6 wounds to the Rhino. The cunning outflankers, what are they called again? Commandos. Cunning commandos managed to do 2 wounds with their flamers, taking to 8 wounds. So the Dakka jet switched targets and shot backwards and blew the Rhino up, exposing the Vanguard veterans to being charged, but none of them died climbing out, thankfully, when they disembarked. Then in other shooting, this Dakka jet switched target and he shot into the Sangard on this objective here, and only managed to do 1 wound because the Sangard was still on a 2-up save because he's 2-up in cover. And then this gun that wasn't initially engaged also shot over to the Sangard and again failed to do any hits. He got 2 shots, failed to do any hits. So this Sangard lived holding on to this objective. Then we got onto combat. Lewis charged over here. 1 knob managed to kill 1 veteran. The boys bounced off. Another knob managed to kill another veteran. The boys bounced off. And then the Death Dread managed to kill 1 veteran. The veteran struck back. 1 at one squad, 1 at the other. But I failed to wound with almost everything. And Lewis managed to make a couple of saves. Even though I'm on Savage Echoes, chainswords, I just didn't get any 6s this time. I've been doing really well with getting 6s, but it just didn't happen for me this time. And so I only managed to kill off. Essentially, a couple of the guys died in the explosion, and I managed to take each squad down to 3 each. So I'm not a massively successful combat phase from these Vanguard veterans. So all in all, a very interesting turn for the Orks. They've managed to take control of 1 objective, and they've almost shot me off a second. The final thing to mention in combat was this game is just so good, so exciting. So he failed to shoot the characters, the chaplain and the librarian dread out of combat. That failed to kill them in shooting. So then it went down to combat. The librarian dread struck first and killed this death dread. Lewis rolled a 6. It exploded, and he did. I think was it 2 mortal wounds to my librarian dreadnought, killing him. He then struck. It was then his turn to strike, and he struck with his death dread against my chaplain. But my chaplain made a 4 and a 5 upon his invuln saves and lived. The chaplain struck back. He'd taken 2 mortal wounds from the previous death dread exploding. He killed Lewis's death dread. Lewis rolled another 6, exploded, did 3 mortal wounds to the chaplain, and killed him as well. So in the just chaos of the explosions, this back edge has just been absolutely cleared out. They're all gone. It's just absolutely crazy. So yeah, my back edge done. Lewis is controlling my table quarter. I'm controlling this table quarter with 1 Sangard. We've got a few guys over here. We've got a few guys in the middle. We've got our death company. And we've got a squad with melters here. And Lewis has got some commandos, a death dread, and some Dakar jets. So we'll be with you. It's a really, really exciting game. Really fun. So we'll be with you after Blood Angels turn 4. So the 2 Flesh Tearer Vanguard veterans who were fighting over this objective decided to tactically withdraw, realising that there was not enough flesh to tear on that death dread, and they were in fact going to be torn asunder themselves. But they remained within this quarter to give me engage on all fronts. I moved my death company off the objective over here towards this Dakar jet, but they failed their charge ultimately. I also abandoned this objective, deciding, if Lewis only has 1, then I only need 2, and sent my priest with jetpack after his other Dakar jet. The melter guys took that Dakar jet down to just 1 wound, and the priest with his Teeth of Terror finished the Dakar jet off no problem, because I want to get rid of these Dakar jets because I'm very aware that it's coming down to narrow points here, and Lewis, these guys are going to score him engaging all fronts every turn. So I tried to charge with both these guys, and then in the end I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll try and charge with this guy as well because they failed, and he failed as well on a 1 and a 2. So I maintained control of 2 objectives to Lewis's 1, but 1 Dakar jet remains in the sky, giving Lewis options. He's starting the game with 1 objective fully controlled. I've withdrawn over here, and these guys are probably going to get run down and killed on the retreat. Lewis is going to, still get more points for behind enemy lines. He's done really well to stay in my deployment zone. So he's starting 5 points on this turn. We'll see how he does. We'll be with you after Orks turn 4. It's coming down to the wire. So the Dakar jet swept in for a strafing run on these veterans, but only managed to kill 1 and kill 1 and do a wound to another 3 wounds in total. He then chased down this Vanguard veteran with 1 squad, failed a charge with the other 2, and he managed to kill just 1 Vanguard veteran off. He shot at them as well. I think he actually killed him with shooting and failed to do anything in combat. This Death Dread shot over at these melter guys, but they've saved their invuns. Company veterans with melters and storm shields, absolutely banging combo there. So they remained on that objective. So at the end of the turn, Lewis scored 5 points. He also scored Line Breaker again for his 2 units in my deployment zone. He's got 3 in fact. So he's on 12 points for that. And we're going into the Blood Angels turn 5. Final. So a very snappy final turn for the Blood Angels. The priest ran over to help secure this objective. He didn't quite make it. And these guys couldn't shoot the veterans, but they've, done enough this game and secured that objective. This objective was secured by the 3 Vanguard veterans who'd finished off killing all the grots and big guns. The 2 Death Company killed off the Dakar jet that was harassing this objective by charging them. These Vanguard veterans just moved up to secure this objective with the Sangard, taking the pressure off him. And then these Vanguard veterans remained in combat, or this lone sergeant, he managed to hack down the two boys aiding the Nob, and then deflected the Nob's power claw with his storm shield. So a perfect end to the battle. And that meant that I also got engaged on all fronts for one final turn of the game, because he stayed in his table quarter. They're there. Death Company and these guys on this objective. And so Lewis is starting the turn on with his objective. He's got his Death Dread, 3 commandos and 1 commando Nob in a duel for the 5th turn. So it should be a quick one. Be with you at the end of the game. So in the Orcs' 5th turn, the Death Dread spitefully blasted over onto these Vanguard veterans and managed to kill one of them off. They failed their invuln that time. These commandos caught up and just beat the Vanguard veteran over the back of the head with great cunning and brutality, whilst he was in an honourable duel with this Nob, finishing him off. And then that was it. That was all she wrote. So it was a really close game in points until the last sort of turn or so, and then the Blood Angels managed to run away with it a little bit, and so it ended with 58 points to the Orcs and 82 points to the Flesh Tearers. I keep saying Blood Angels, but they are Flesh Tearers. They even have the grey shoulder pads. So, good game all in all. Really enjoyed the Flesh Tearers list. The Orc list was probably a bit more fun, and the Flesh Tearers list probably had a bit more teeth than I sort of planned for it to have. It was, it's a good list with all the Death Company and that kind of thing. But I really enjoyed facing Lewis's Custorkies. Super powerful. Just totally different way to play Orcs. I think the Killer Cans, obviously, they don't have a great reputation and they are quite squishy. But I mean, I've only been left with a few models left on the field. We've got 3 of those company veterans. We've got 5, maybe 7, 8 Vanguard veterans, a Sandguard, and 2 Death Company, and 1 Sanguinary Priest. So he's taking quite a toll on the Flesh Tearers. But all in all, really ridiculously fun game, super exciting. And yeah, so I hope you found it interesting. I hope you guys found it entertaining. This has been the Scholar Progenium. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Lewis, for coming over. Goodbye.